Good evening, 47. Your targets are Dr. Pavel Friedel and Dr. Akane Akanawa, brilliant and unethical transplant surgeons. Both were involved in performing an operation on a billionaire's son. However, the organ had been sourced illicitly in Central Africa, and the patient died of hemorrhagic fever shortly after. We have located the targets at Gamma in Hokkaido, where they are key members of staff and will enjoy a great deal of freedom of movement and protection within the facility itself. The client offers a substantial bonus if the targets are eliminated in a manner appropriate to the death of their patient. As you know, the Gamma facility has worked with infectious diseases, so you should be able to find something useful on site. And I know you appreciate poetic justice. The clock is ticking, 47. Good luck.
So I've found this to be one of the easier elusive targets out there. And I wonder if that has to do with the fact that it takes place on the Hokkaido map. Because when you do an elusive target in Hokkaido, you can't assume that the player will bring anything in, because you're not allowed to bring weapons or items in with you until you're level 20. And we'll talk about this more when the contract starts, but I think for that reason, this level became fairly trivial, because they can't throw any curveballs at you that you wouldn't be able to adapt to with just what's in the mission, what's on the map. They're not allowed to, because that would violate the rules of Hokkaido for people who aren't at level 20 like I am. That also means that once you are level 20, the mission just becomes so much easier. Like, infinitely easier. And part of the other part that makes this pretty easy is the optional objective, which you'd think that would make things difficult, but the fact that you have a route to Silent Assassin prescribed to you just makes your decision making that much easier.
Good afternoon, 47. I have an update for you. The Gamma facility has continued their research into the variant 2 Banner-Coleman hemorrhagic virus and may have several samples in storage. I've been unable to ascertain the location of the samples, so you will need to locate them yourself if you wish to honor the client's special request. Good hunting, 47, as always.
So, what I mean when I say that the optional objective makes this easier, what I want to say is that because the route is there where you have to kill them to get Silent Assassin, you have to fulfill all the objectives, which means you have to kill them with with the lethal poison, the virus that is located on the map. So, in order to make that possible, that means that the two targets must have a place or a way to isolate them so that you can just inject them with the poison and be done with it. So, because they designed this around you having to do the poison to get Silent Assassin, this level is conversely pretty easy. It's easier than it sounds.
Right? I mean, shut up. Don't I look like Hush or Invisible Man? Or maybe Dark Man? Yeah, shut up. Totally Dark Man.
You look like...
And in the briefing, Diana isn't clear about where the virus would be held, but if you've played this map as much as I have, there's only a couple places where it could actually reasonably be. And as it turns out, we'll see in a second, but the first place I would guess it to be turns out to be exactly where it is.
Oh, I heard that you can.
I just need the director's disguise in order to get more. Well, to get a easier time moving around this map. it's because of the way that the doors work in this, where you need a certain disguise to get through certain doors. It's just much easier to get the hospital director disguise to get you relatively free, not completely free movement, but relatively free movement throughout the facility. Also makes him a good disguise to scout the mission
you have here.
before you make your actual approach. And while we're just running around trying to figure out where everything is for this mission, I want to talk about something that's a little outside the parameters of this Elusive Target. So, in a recent update for this game, they added what was called Professional Difficulty Mode, where if you are level 20 on a given map, you're able to perform the contract on a high difficulty setting that adds parameters like if you're doing a crime while in the middle while being watched by a surveillance camera, for example, the game will call that as detected, and you can't take a disguise that's been shot to hell or bled on. So you need to make a clean kill when getting a disguise from somebody. And a lot of other different parameters.
So, you're the
And I was going to make a video on it and explain what I thought about it. But honestly, when I took the footage for that difficulty, it wasn't that fun to take the footage, and B, it wasn't interesting to watch. So I decided to just kind of screw it. But honestly, the main reason that I had no fun playing on professional difficulty, and normally I wouldn't mind that kind of stuff, but the big problem is that you only have one save slot, which is, for me, a big deal breaker.
47. Those samples should be exactly what you need.
And yeah, as I said, the vials were just right there. It was really easy to find them. My first guess is where they would be, is in the stem cell room, and voila, there they are. But going back to the depression difficulty topic, what I would like them to do, since I just played Dishonored 2 on New Game Plus, and they added a custom difficulty where you can make the game exactly as hard or as easy as you want in a number of different ways. I think I would really appreciate if this game did that, where you could toggle parameters like clean kills to get disguises, or surveillance cameras will detect you when you're doing a crime, or number of saves, just so that this game can become like Hitman the way the player wants to be. I'm in love with the idea that games can let you not just choose difficulty, but customize it so the difficulty is ideal to what you want. I think it's something that games really should start trying to move towards, especially games like Hitman, where what defines hard for one Hitman player will not necessarily be the same thing that defines it as being hard for another player. Like, some people will find the stealth pretty easy and just find it difficult to come up with a solution. Or some people will find that the difficulty lies not in finding the solution, but in implementing it. Or in trying to sneak around people when you're in range of their line of sight. There are so many different ways this game could be called difficult for a person or easy for a person. Or if they just don't understand the language of how the level is communicating what they're supposed to do. These are all things, some of them you can't really affect. Like, if you don't understand the language of Hitman, that's something you just have to learn brute force. But a lot of these variables you can just change on a dial. Like the line of sight of enforcer NPCs, or the amount of saves you can have in a given mission, or if you want to toggle if you want to have any number of saves in a mission. Like, these are things that you could just set to a parameter and say, this is what that means.
I'm fine.
And this is what I want out of my Hitman difficulty. And I think for a game like this, that'd be really, really appreciated in a really nice way, just to further encourage people to play through the game in a bunch of different ways that are suited to them. That's something that they want to do, not something that does not prescribe to them. And that's my, like, I could make a whole video about pressure difficulty, but it would basically boil down to that point where
Mr. Director, you of all.
the exact parameters
Security is high at the moment,
that
so
they
this
have
area is not acceptable.
prescribed for professional difficulty are not fun for me, but I would like the idea of making the game a little tougher, because as it stands, the game is a bit on the easy side. At least in my personal opinion, as someone who's played 70, 80 hours of this game. Of course, that could be because I've played 70 to 80 hours of this game. But I would like those options to be there for players to make the game a bit more accessible. Accessibility is not a bad thing, especially when it comes to games that are like this, that encourage you to play in different ways.
I just need to talk to you, sir.
Yeah, it's okay. This is a scouting run. I don't care if I get seen. I'm just trying to find the targets at this point. And I've actually never been into this room until this Elusive Target. This is the director's office, and I have never once been here. And I've seen the challenge for the baseball, for the baseball uniform, but I never knew where it was, and now I have learned, just as we record this, it's right here in the office. It's so silly, but I can't help myself. Foul play. Oh, Hitman. Hitman never change. You're too good.
Mr. Director.
So I'm actually really glad I didn't do that professional difficulty video in hindsight, because that 10-minute rant or so basically summarizes my thoughts on that difficulty. And now, at this point, we're just trying to find the targets. We're trying to find the male surgeon and the female surgeon. I don't even remember the names at this point.